Welcome to the College Basketball Net Profit Show, Pub Sports Radio, Tuesday, January 17th. Ian Cameron, Conor Mack, and back to look ahead to the Tuesday night college basketball card. Fresh off a very entertaining betcast. Entertaining despite the fact the game wasn't really that good last night with Dallas and Tampa Bay. That was a lot of fun. Hopefully, we can have a lot of fun making money tonight with this college basketball slate. So let's get to it. We'll start with the SEC here. Ole Miss, South Carolina. Ole Miss, 5.5-point road favorites, 130 the total in this one. SEC matchup here of, I guess you could say, middle of the pack SEC teams. Both of these teams identical, 8-9 records. Ole Miss is not playing well at all right now. 6 straight losses for this team. They've also failed to cover in 4 straight. The schedule's been pretty rough. I mean, they've played Alabama, Mississippi State on the road, Auburn, a good team at home. But losing outright as home favorites to Georgia last time out, 62-58, doesn't instill a whole lot of confidence going into this matchup. South Carolina, it hasn't been a whole lot better for them. They did compete against Vanderbilt and lost in overtime. 2 ugly blowout losses against Tennessee and A&M. But they also had a shocking 20-point outright underdog winner at Kentucky. So team's been all over the map. It's been an under team Ole Miss all the way. Can't score worth a lick. South Carolina's kind of been the opposite because their defense has fallen apart and they've been trending over. So I'm off the total in this game because it could go either way. I have to grab the points, though, with South Carolina because I just cannot make a case for Ole Miss laying this kind of number right now, especially on the road. South Carolina, I do think coming back to the friendly confines of home after an ugly loss will play hard tonight. That might be all that's required against this reeling Ole Miss team. So I'm going to take the home dog here. The Cox. Go Cox. What do you think here, South Carolina, Ole Miss, Conor?
Yeah, I think this is the Cox, South Carolina, or nothing, really. Ole Miss laying 6 points right now on the road, even to this bad offensive South Carolina team. No way. Ole Miss, not very good as well. The only big difference, are better defensively. South Carolina, not great. 300s, 200s in a lot of categories. Both teams don't shoot it well, under 30%. Free throws are bad. You mentioned because the defense is a little bad, and it could creep over, but this would, on the total, I'd only be on the under. I lean that way, and yeah, the points with South Carolina here. I believe no roughing for them as well. So, 8-9 points for Ole Miss. Give me the points at home was where I'd be here, South Carolina.
Absolutely. I agree with you there. All right, Davidson and Dayton as we head to the 8-10. Dayton, 10-point home favorites in this one. 129.5 the total in this game, Davidson and Dayton. You look at this matchup, Dayton, I mentioned on Friday's show, I thought laying 7 against, I think, the toughest team they've played in a very long time after that cupcake schedule where they were killing teams left and right. But they hadn't faced anybody the quality of VCU, and sure enough, they lose outright as 7-point home favorites, 63-62 in that game. Dayton looking to rebound, facing a Davidson team that's really not been as good. I think they missed the old man a little bit, Bob McKillop. Not saying his son is incompetent, but it's not really been the same Davidson squad this year. They've struggled offensively in some games, which is not usually their issue. And the last 2 games against George Mason and Richmond, both of them losses. Both of them, they're held to 65 points or less. Bad shooting nights in both of those games. So it's been a struggle here for Davidson. There's no question about that. But I think I like them a little bit here tonight, getting the 10.5. Because Dayton to me, looks like they could be a little bit, overvalued. Again, still overvalued after just facing a cupcake schedule. And then, of course, we saw what happened against VCU. And Davidson is in revenge. They lost at home to Dayton 69-55 back on New Year's Eve. Now they're getting points as road dogs. I mentioned this angle on Friday's show. You back a road team, especially a road team catching points after they have lost on their home court to that same opponent earlier in the season and it's same season revenge. That's a good bet on angle. Long-term, the ATS win percentage in these spots is very, very good for these teams. So for that reason, I'm going to jump on Davidson here, plus the 10 in this one. Conor, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm not. Even though I think Davidson could cover. The number's really big here. You mentioned it. I think it just took a better team but Dayton, you have to give their credit, still 7-1. The last 8 were 7-0 against the number. there. This last game last year went under, but surprisingly, this series has gone over. There's been a lot of points. I don't know about the total here tonight. The one thing that's good with Dayton is just I don't want to lay 10 points with this team. Could they win by 12 or 14? And they've done it in the past where it's Davidson, but I'm not going to put my money on it. Their defense is great, top 10 in a ton of categories, and they'll need it tonight. And I know it's 10. It's like, man, I want to take Davidson, but I don't trust this team at all. So I'm going to be off.
I can't blame you. It's tough, but I'm going to take that chance. All right, next up, we've got Florida State, Notre Dame. Notre Dame, 5.5 point home favorites, 140.5, 141. The total's finally going up a bit. I agree. I like the over. You know what I've talked about repeatedly, really with both of these teams. I don't trust either of them on the defensive end of the basketball court. We've been saying that pretty much most of the season with both the Seminoles and the Fighting Irish. Florida State, they've lost 2 straight games, including but losses to at Wake and Virginia, 2 solid teams. Now you step down in class and you face this horrible Notre Dame team. Look, I get it. Florida State's had a rough season too. Hasn't been anything great to write home about. It is actually revenge for Notre Dame at home. They lost to Florida State by a point in Tallahassee just a few weeks ago. That game went over the total. I don't think anything changes. I mean, you're going to trust Notre Dame to not only win a game, but win by margin. Their only victory in conference play was by 1 point against Georgia Tech at home, another game where they failed to cover as favorites. So I get it. I mean, Notre Dame is trying to avenge an earlier loss, but they can't be laying points right now. Not one bit. I like Florida State again in this matchup. I'll take the 5.5, and I like the over again, just like the first meeting. I think 140 is too low. Connor, what do you think?
Yeah, I was hoping this would be like 137, 138. I still think you can get over because Florida State's defense is the biggest key. That I think they can score on Notre Dame, but they're going to give up points, even to a Notre Dame team that's hot and cold shooting, as we all know, especially from 3. Still 38%. And one weakness for Florida State going through it today is, what are they, 323 defending the 3, which is good. So Notre Dame should be chucking it.
Yes.
As long as there's bricks, I think they're in it. So I like the points as well here. I think it's a few too many.
Yeah, and you got 2 teams that are 73% plus from the free throw line as well. They're pretty solid making their free throws. So, yeah, over the total for me. And even though Notre Dame's trying to earn redemption here, they've got to win by margin. If this is Notre Dame pick'em, I probably might even look Notre Dame. But, we're talking -5 here, and they've been horrible laying points, especially asking them to win by margin. So I'd still look at the Seminoles here plus the points.
They should use their size.
Yep.
Real quick, sorry, and to just get it down low. That's something Notre Dame doesn't have. Florida State. Easy buckets. Yeah.
No doubt. Punish the paint. Absolutely right. Boston College, North Carolina, 14.5 point home favorites, 145.5 the total in this one. I like BC. I think it's just too many points for North Carolina right now. They've got some injuries in the front court too. Keep in mind, they've had some, like a couple of their key, interior players have had nagging injuries, banged up a little bit. Both Pete Nance, Will Shaver, and Armando Bacot, but it looks like Bacot is going to be playing tonight, even though he's been injured a little bit the last few games. Looks like he'll be in the lineup. Nevertheless, they did crush Louisville their last game, 80-59. I've still got some worries about them covering a number like this, especially when you look at Boston College and they've been able to be scrappy, on occasion. Last 2 games have kind of gotten away from them. 88-72 to Miami, 85-63 to Wake. I kind of wonder what's happened here in the last 2 games defensively. It's certainly been a little bit of a struggle for them. Totals going up. I don't hate that, especially with Notre Dame or North Carolina rather on their home floor. Each of their last 3 home games have gone over the total. Their 2 previous ACC home games, Wake and Notre Dame, both of those games got over the total. The Notre Dame game barely did, got to 145. The Wake game got well into the 160s. And BC, don't look now. They've gone over in 5 of the last 6 games. Large part of that is because they've given up points. However, offensively, they've also been able to improve just a little. They're not a great offensive team, but they couldn't score a lick last year, so they've at least improved from that. So the over, I think, taking money makes sense, but not laying this many with North Carolina. Small bet for me on the Eagles. What do you think here, Connor?
I just think of Boston College. I want to back them at home. I think this is kind of baiting you here a little bit with this 14. Could they do it? And they have, and they've gotten blown out kind of in the history of the last couple of years. Can Boston College get in the mid-60s? You're going to need that at least to get this over, because if you think Carolina gets to the 80s, that was the lone thing. But you mentioned Carolina at home. It's trended a little bit over. So I'm going to stay off in the end, even though I lean a little bit over and the points. I'm off here.
All right, NC State, Georgia Tech. Next up, we've got NC State 6-point road favorites, 143.5 the total between these two teams. This matchup's pretty interesting in that NC State is rolling. They've won 6 of their last 7 games, playing some really good basketball. They had a quality road win at Virginia Tech last time out, 73-69. But now they're not only laying points on the road, they're laying 6. Will they be able to win by this kind of margin against Georgia Tech is the question mark. Georgia Tech lost to Pitt in their last game, 71-60. I like Pitt at the short number in that game. But then you compare this. Pitt beat, it's not like A plus B equals C, but we kind of have that going on in this game. Pitt was laying like 2-3 points on the road at Georgia Tech. Pitt beat NC State earlier this year. And now NC State is laying more than Pitt did here at Georgia Tech, laying 6. Pitt was only laying like 2 or 3 at Georgia Tech over the weekend. So from a value standpoint, I don't see value with NC State. I think they are the better team, but I'm not laying 6. In fact, I lean a little to the Jackets here. Conor, any thoughts?
Dog's been good here. This is the one thing with NC State, which I've seen a little bit better the last couple of weeks, and they've had a few unders, is their defense. Can that show here and keep maybe Georgia Tech low 60s? That's what they'll need to do to cover. I don't want to bet it. Even though I think the Wolfpack are a little bit better, I'm not going to do it here tonight.
Yeah, I'm not in love with the Jackets either, but I'd lean to that side if I had to bet it. It's just like I say, NC State. It just doesn't make sense to me. Pitt beat NC State. I think Pitt's actually even a little bit better than NC State, to be quite honest with you, because I love what I've seen from Pitt. And yet NC State's laying like 3-4 points more than Pitt did at Georgia Tech. So, to me, it's
this is a classic tough game. They're like on the road, still a team that's not as good. Just watch out. I mean, NC State could win by 8 or 10. Just watch out.
Yeah, this is just one of those games, and you get a lot of these conference play at this time of year. You get 6-point favorite. I could see them winning by 8, 10, 12, covering the number. I could see them winning by a bucket and failing to cover the number. So it's one of those type of games. All right, Tennessee, Mississippi State. We've got the Volunteers, 5.5-point road favorites, 123.5 the total. So I really did consider laying it with Tennessee because you got to figure that's a really big bounce back situation for them after losing to Kentucky over the weekend. I wouldn't necessarily, people are calling that what a shocking loss. It's Kentucky, for fuck's sakes. I mean, my goodness, I know they've struggled this year, Kentucky, but let's not act like Tennessee just lost to, the Citadel or something, or North Carolina A&T. I mean, Kentucky is still, a tradition-rich program, and they weren't playing well, but people were reacting to that game like, holy shit, it's the upset of the century or some shit. No, couldn't be further from the truth. I mean, Kentucky just finally put it together. The talent was always there. They were just dramatically underachieving. And Tennessee just missed a shit ton of baskets around the rim. That game was unbelievable. How many easy layups and shots Tennessee was missing in that game. Or else they probably could have beaten Kentucky, but they lose outright as 11-point favorites. It probably is a good bounce-back situation. On the road, they've gotten the job done for the most part. They had a non-cover against Ole Miss, but they still won the game by 4. And their last road game, they just beat the brakes off South Carolina, almost doubled them up, 85-42 in that game. I think it's definitely a bounce-back spot. Mississippi State's not really playing all that good right now. The last time they played this kind of caliber opponent at home, they lost by 11 on this floor against Alabama. So I think Tennessee's got the potential to get a margin here. So Tennessee minus 5.5 would be the way I would look here. Conor, what do you think?
Yeah, it seems like it, after the bad performance and the loss, it just seems like in the defense will come, because top in tons of categories, just bogs down this not Mississippi State team that can't score. I mean, at 123.5, I think this might be too high. I'd only be on the under. Baskets could be made and it gets over. But when I was looking at this, is the only way to look at it here. But I don't want to lay, even though I think Tennessee might win here, I'm not going to lay points with them on the road. That's it. Shout out to the chat, by the way. Hit the like button. Shout out to everyone in here. Topset, Rocco, Coin, Nasty Nate, Don Play, Rodney, my man, Rara, Fat Wally, Fat Wally, Gregory, Nunya, Jake Burns, Gerald Jones, all the regulars. Massive green in here. Lance LaRose, Gerald Jones, Grit and Grind, J-Row, everybody. Shout out to you guys if you like. But Black Thor King, my guy. Hell yeah. Hypes
There
me
you
up
go.
seeing all
Exactly.
of
It
our
is
guys.
great to
Here.
hear.
Especially daily. I love
Yeah.
it. These same
Definitely.
guys.
Great turnout. And make sure you become
Smart.
a Pub Sports Radio YouTube channel member. There it is, $4.99 a month. Make sure you get on that for sure. All right, good stuff. We move on to the Sunflower State Showdown here. Kansas State. We've got Kansas 1.5 2-point road favorites. 147 is the total between these two teams. Kansas State undefeated at home. I'm almost ready to buy in that they could beat Kansas here. Honestly, Kansas State. I love what I'm seeing. They're obviously a bad game against TCU, 82-68. Maybe a little look ahead to this game. We can't help but think maybe they were. Kansas has actually been good on the road. I mean, they destroyed Missouri, beat Texas Tech, destroyed West Virginia, at home or on the road rather. 3-0 straight up, 3-0 against the spread on the road. I mean, and they pretty much only have to win the game, in order to cover this number. They're playing some excellent basketball, but I wouldn't sell Case. It's a great matchup. It really is. I mean, it has been an incredible stretch of games from the dynamic scoring duo for Kansas State. All season long, they've been powering this team. Keontae Johnson, Marquise Noel, they've just been both just phenomenal scorers for the Wildcats this year. They're going to have to keep that going here against Kansas if they're going to be victorious in this game. Last year, these two teams met. We saw 78-75, 102-83. Both of those games were victories for Kansas, although it was a very close game here in the Little Apple when these teams played. I think the Wildcats can do it. You're not going to run the table here if you're Kansas. It's not like this is a huge, bet for me, but I definitely lean home dog. Kansas State plus 1.5, plus 2. Can only look over for the total at 147, just based on last year where we saw two shootouts between these two teams that flew over the number. And you look at Kansas State, they've been in most of their games have gotten over this number, 147 for the most part. So it would be over or pass for me. But a great game. Looking forward to this one big time. What do you think here, Connor Mack, Kansas, K-State?
Yeah, you mentioned Johnson, Noel, but flip to the other side. I think Wilson, McCullough, Grady Dick, the guy's been really good. It's just it's tonight the night. Kansas kind of goes down, loses one. You're going to lose one or two usually on the road with the schedule that they have. Because I think they're the better team. If you think this is a cheap price, I think you go after Kansas. All the money on Kansas, but this line's coming down. It might come down to 1, I think. 1.5 basically everywhere. I lean Kansas State. In the end, I think I'm going to stay off this game, but that's my lean. I was close to betting them. I've been going back and forth. So when I just don't love some, I think I'm going to be off.
You're saying all the money coming in on Kansas and the line trickling down makes me think this is on Razor Sharp's card tonight.
Yeah, this is a gambler's first glance type game to me from everything.
Right. You'd be on K-State if that's the case. Yeah, no doubt about it. Creighton and Butler. Creighton 7-point road favorites, 141 the total in this game. I don't lay points a lot, but I am here. Creighton's gonna, if Creighton plays their best, they're focused, and they should be, because obviously they've had some missteps. But it seems like teams that are stepping down in class and they're playing the worst teams in this conference, like a Butler, you could beat this team. And I know Butler had the win against Villanova last time on this home floor, but Villanova's a mess. They barely, and I mean barely, survived Georgetown in their last game. That's a program with clear issues right now. I wouldn't go too crazy about Butler winning that game over. I wouldn't go crazy about Butler winning that game over Villanova. I think this is a Creighton spot now for them. They're obviously off the 73-67 win against Providence, but they had struggled in the last couple games before that. I don't trust Butler flat out, so I do like Creighton here. I might even do a first half full game split, because I could see them getting out in front early, maybe coasting later. But yeah, I don't trust Butler here. You beat Villanova, and Villanova's got issues. I need to see more. What do you think here, Connor?
Real quick, the coins thing. To me, it's just the public is on Kansas. I see some of the bigger bets on K-State. Yeah. That's why it's coming down. But I think the public, all the small tickets and all that, the regular people are on Kansas. But that's another story. We can go every place over the money. I don't want Butler here. even though I lean their way. One thing with Creighton, I want them at home. They've been getting healthy. They seem to be a little more lax defensively on the road. I just haven't seen enough out of Butler, even though this is tempting at 7 points. I'm gonna wait on them. I think they could cover tonight or even win, but I just don't want them here.
All right, there we go. No, good stuff. Next up, we've got Houston, Tulane. We've got Houston, 11-point road favorites, 146 the total. Total's been bet down. Tulane has been an over machine, but finally, that over train came to a halt on the weekend. They hosted Central Florida. That game ended up staying under the total, 77-60. It was one of the best defensive efforts I've seen out of Tulane in recent memory. Tulane's been a high-scoring team, not exactly great defensively, but they were, again, very good offensively. But this time they brought the defense as well. I mean, they've won and covered 5 straight, and Houston hasn't been an automatic laying the big points here in a couple of these recent games. Now, they did crush SMU. They did beat down Cincinnati on the road. In fact, on the road in AAC play, they've won by 39 and 13. So maybe that doesn't bode well for Tulane. But this is a very, very hard-trying Tulane team. It's a very, very explosive, offensive-minded Tulane team. This is a little bit of a banged-up Houston team right now. Darius Bowser, Ramon Walker Jr., Jarris Walker, they're all either ill, personal leave of absence, that kind of thing. So keep an eye on that. This is maybe not a dangerous spot. Like maybe I don't think they'll lose the game, Houston, but you're talking about laying 11 on the road against a team that's playing their best basketball right now, the Tulane Green Wave. I think there's reason to like the Green Wave here, getting this kind of points in this game. Last year, these teams met, and it was Houston winning all 3. Well, Houston, of course, is dominated straight up because Tulane was a very bad program years ago. But, this year, I don't know if Houston's that automatic to just romp over this Tulane Green Wave team. I'm interested a little bit in Tulane here, plus 11, just a few too many points. And if you actually look at the schedule ahead for Houston, they go back home after this for a game on the weekend, UCF after that. Bigger games ahead. I think Tulane can hang in there plus 11 in this one. Conor, what do you think?
I agree with you here. This game to me is just can Tulane get it done? Because I think this is the best team they've had in the last couple of years. They're still not great defensively. What I like to seeing a home dog like this is they can hit shots, and they're going to have to. They got to get a little gritty because they don't. Houston should be able to score on them. They're a great free throw team. 82 or 83%, right?
Better than Houston. Villanova. Much better than Houston.
Much better than Houston. Yeah. So as much as if you like Houston, roll first half. I know they didn't get it done their last game. So I wouldn't go full game because full game, I like Tulane here. I think they give their best effort. And you mentioned a little sick, some guys banged up. But the thing is with Houston, they bring their A game, they roll. But if it's just a little off and, sometimes they struggle to score, Tulane's knocking some shots, I think they can hang. So I like the 11 with Tulane.
Yeah, I do as well. And look, that's the thing. When you're playing Houston, if you're a team that can't put the ball in the bucket and struggles, you're not going to come through the back door, and Houston will just lock you down and just wear you down. Tulane's got some real firepower this season. They can shoot it from 2, shoot it from long distance. They're an excellent free throw shooting team. The Green Wave, Jalen Forbes is outstanding. Kevin Cross, Jalen Cook. I mean, that trio was just terrific for Tulane. They got multiple weapons here. And like I said, Houston's a little shorthanded potentially tonight. And they only beat South Florida by 6, and they were laying 20 in that game in their last one. So again, I think Tulane a little undervalued, Houston overvalued here in this one. We'll see if Tulane can hang tough. All right, Texas, Iowa State. In the next game here, Iowa State 2.5-point home favorites, 132.5 the total in this one. I like Iowa State at home. I'm not going to overcomplicate the reasoning other than saying that they just play outstanding basketball here in this building. They've done it for years. Last time they were here, they dismantled Texas Tech. They've already got double-digit wins against Baylor and Texas Tech at home, and those are excellent teams. Tells you all you need to know about the strength of this Iowa State home court. Texas, they got a nice grinded-out win against Texas Tech, 72-70, and then TCU 79-75 home win after that. We'll see how they fare here in this one. They are home road underdogs, and it's worth noting in Big 12 play, they've only lost one game, and that was the Kansas State game by 13. But other than that, they've won every other game. So it's not easy to lay points against Texas. I get that. You look at the Longhorns, a solid offensive team, but they're going up against a team that's played scintillating, lights out defense all season. In fact, Iowa State, has actually improved quite a bit offensively too. They can't match Texas, but their defensive numbers are better than Texas's. So I think there's a reason this team's favored at home, and I think they're going to show why tonight. I like the Cyclones here. Money line for me, minus 135. Connor, what do you think?
Yeah, Texas offense a little bit bigger, and they've been solid to the over. Iowa State, though, for me at home, their defense has been really good. I mean, great to the under. I lean under. History kind of goes over. But I agree with you here. I think this is not a great spot here for Texas. To me, this is Iowa State or pass. I like them here. You could just go money line. I don't know if I lay this 2.5.
Yeah, I did money line. I actually a small bet over, but nothing just because of that series history where it's all but one of the last 7 or 8 meetings have gone over the total with these two teams. But they are good defensively, which is why I'm keeping that a small bet. But those series history factors are very hard to ignore, and it seems like there's something to them, and they tend to hold up. We'll see if they do again tonight. All right, next up, Penn State, Wisconsin. Wisconsin 3.5 point home favorites, 129.5 is the total in this one. Obviously, Wisconsin taking money. They've obviously a short home favorites. A lot of people are usually interested in backing the Badgers. I don't know if I'd lay 3.5 now with them. This team has lost 3 in a row. I remember the last time I took them as home underdogs, Michigan State, they were leading most of the game, playing well, and then they went ice cold, stone cold. Offensively, they ended up losing that game. And speaking of stone cold offensively, it carried over to the game at Indiana over the weekend. What was that? 18 of 56 shooting, 45 points in a 63-45 loss. I mean, this is not a team that is, offensively potent right now. The good news is, look, he really is all world for this team, Tyler Wall. I mean, it really is that simple. He's missed the last 3 games due to an ankle injury. He's back tonight for Wisconsin. They lost all 3 games, and they failed to cover all 3 games without him. So that tells you all you need to know about how important he is. So he's back, but how effective is he going to be? How in rhythm is he going to be? Is he going to be 100%? And Penn State's not a bad basketball team this year. 12-5. They've played pretty well. Losses to Purdue and Michigan, their last 2, but they bounced back and they crushed Indiana before that. And they have a road win at Illinois, very impressive one on their resume. So I ain't laying points against Penn State with this flighty Wisconsin team. Wall back, but that's just not reason enough alone to say, yeah, let's lay 3.5. So I'm passing on this one. What do you think, C-Mac?
Me too. There's a few things keeping me off. Wall's back. This seems like the perfect spot, though, for Wisconsin. 3 straight losses. They haven't covered a number in 6 straight. But here at home, one thing I talk about with Penn State, the 40% basically, right around 10th, 11th in the country. Those drop. They're in it. They played Wisconsin tough the last couple of years. Both games were 1-point games, I believe. I'd have to double check that. But I think it's a Wisconsin spot. I just, creeping out now to 3.5. I'm off. Maybe look Wisconsin money line if you think they win.
Not at that price now that it's up to. So yeah, I'm staying away for sure. Alabama, Vanderbilt. Alabama 8-point road favorites, 154 being the total in this game. I mean, very impressive. I mean, it's for me. I can't step in front of Alabama. They're playing just outstanding basketball. They just beat the living daylights out of really their last 3 opponents: Kentucky, Arkansas, and LSU. I mean, they've won 6 straight. They've covered 5 straight, and all of them by double digits. So do you want to step in front of this team right now? No, I don't. That being said, Vanderbilt, very impressive, 97-84 in their last game against Arkansas at home. Arkansas has not been the same, though, with all the injuries. But nevertheless, solid win for the Doors. They've gone over in 5 straight games. The Alabama offense has exploded during this win streak, 78+ in 5 straight games. 84 and 106 in the last 2. I mean, this total is high. It's high for a reason. 3 of the last 4 have gone over head-to-head. I really like the over here, 154. I can't for the life of me figure out why they're betting this thing under. Certainly wouldn't be me. The one concern I guess you'd have with Alabama laying points on the road is potential flat spot. They've got this horrible situation going on in the backdrop with the friggin' murder charge for the Miles. I mean,
Oh
it's
yeah.
just so unfortunate. It's just that's
Conor.
hanging over this team terrible. I don't know what the hell he was doing. Darius Miles under investigation, charged with murder in a fatal shooting. I mean, it's just that's not something a basketball team needs hanging around them like a black cloud. But at the same time, you look at this situation here, literally and figuratively, a black cloud, actually, when you think of it. But nevertheless, I mean, you look at this situation. They didn't show any signs of it affecting them against LSU. What the hell? I mean, you'd think maybe there's some distractions or some emotional, you're a little shaken up emotionally when you hear about this involving a teammate. And all you did was go down to LSU and beat the shit out of them in that game. Seriously, 106 to 66.
I
Wasn't
think it
even
was right
close.
after the game that night.
Yeah. Yeah. Is that
So
when they found out?
I think
Yeah.
so. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Okay.
right.
So
But
maybe they didn't know. Well,
they've been kicking ass.
so this could be the game where maybe they're thinking of that and they're off their game. That's the only way you could bet Vanderbilt right now, in my opinion, is just gauging on maybe them being off the mark a little bit, flat a little bit, this on their minds, and they're not sharp, because everything that they're doing on the court right now tells you don't you dare step in front of Alabama right now. They are just rolling. So I'm passing on the side, but I do like the over here in this one. And that's a mistake on the graphic there, Jose. That's 154, the total. If it was 129.5, I'd be putting the whole account on 129.5 over with these two
Oh
teams.
yeah, the total
Yeah,
here.
over 154. Let's just make sure we correct that. That's the total. What do you think here, Connor?
Yeah, man, Alabama's been so good. I've been impressed by Vandy's play as of late. I know Arkansas is banged up, but lost under 10 at Tennessee. Was a close one against Mizzou. I like him here. I think this is the bad spot here for Alabama. Just bad, bad, bad. There's a couple 8.5s left, but 8. I think Vandy covers tonight. It might even be an upset here. Win it.
All right, big upset, says Vandy. Going for the upset here. Vandy plus the points for Connor Mack. All right, Nevada, Boise State. Boise State 5.5-point home favorites, 135 the total. Nevada beating Utah State 85-70 in their last game at home. Now they go on the road and face Boise State, who have won 4 straight, covered 3 of the 4, playing some really good basketball, beating up both Wyoming and UNLV on the road, and now returning home to face this Nevada team who beat them 74-72 earlier this season in Reno last month. So revenge spot for Boise. I think Boise probably wins. Do they cover? They might. I certainly would lean to Boise, but what I like more is the total. 5 straight overs, head-to-head Boise and Nevada. We saw 171, 155, 140, 140, and 146 be the total points scored in those 5 head-to-head meetings. And yet this total is only 135. Too low. Over the total for me. What do you think, Connor?
It's just, you're thinking of the old Boise team, especially not lately. The last 6 or 7, they've just gone way over. And
Yeah.
Nevada kind of defense is solid too, but they played to the over.
Yeah.
This one's a little bit, I think, is tighter. It's, I thought this total was a little bit light. I think they're just going off the past and their numbers, especially. I lean over as well. Man, I like how Boise's played a little bit lately. And I like Nevada just at home. This one's tough. In the end, I want to look at this even more, but I'm off right now.
I agree. I think this
Lean
definitely,
but
revenge spot. Yeah, revenge spot for Boise. But if you lay 2.5, 3 with Boise, like I'd be interested. 5.5, I could still see this one being a little bit close. So the over is definitely the play here for me. Superior bet than either side in this game. All right, UNLV, Utah State. Speaking of overs, Utah State 6.5-point home favorites, 149 the total. This is another over bet for me. I think this total is a bit low as well. Utah State, pretty solid offensive team. They've trended over 4 in a row. For them, have gone over. You look at the home game against Wyoming, flew over the total, 83 points in that game. UNLV is still all of a sudden falling apart defensively. I mean, it's been really for the last 4 games where it's just the competition is stiffened as well. Let's keep that in mind. San Diego State, New Mexico, Boise, Colorado State. The Rebels give up 76 plus in all of those games. They have given up north of 50% shooting in their last 2 games to Boise and Colorado State. So they're just not getting stops on the defensive end of the court right now, UNLV. Nothing on the side. I mean, Utah State is probably in a bounce-back spot after losing to Nevada last week. I'd lean to the Aggies in some form. Don't want to lay 7. This is like the other game. I think the home favorites, I'd lean. But in both games, with the home favorites, Boise State the last game, Utah State this game, I think the over is just the much better bet, the much better wager to make. So over for me, 149, 149.5. What do you think, Connor?
I think it's still okay even there, just as if it's kind of below 150. That's what I was thinking of. G. Martinez put it, UNLV not horrible, 213 against the 3, but Utah State, if they're hitting it, they're raining it. This is a top 1 or 2 shooting threes, and UNLV has struggled there the last few years. So I lean Utah State, maybe even early, but even full game, I kind of do. It's not a good spot here for UNLV. I think they have the talent. I need to see more on the road. They did have that great second half, the Pitt, about 10 days ago. So, yeah, but lean Utah State.
All right, we got Murray State and Belmont now next up. And this should be an interesting matchup here. We've got these two teams have a great rivalry. There's no question about it. A great rivalry that actually goes back to their Ohio Valley Conference days. But as we know, they're no longer in the Ohio Valley Conference. They are now in the Missouri Valley Conference. So it's just cool that both of these teams made the move to the Missouri Valley Conference, and this great rivalry gets to stay alive here. Belmont 6.5-point home favorites, 7 in some spots, 144.5 being the total in this game. For years, it was betting a lot of overs with Belmont versus Murray State. It hasn't been that way actually. The last 4 meetings have all stayed under, and some of them way under. Between these two teams. And Murray's gotten the better of Belmont here some of the last few meetings between these two teams. Belmont's been all over the map. They've had some very impressive wins. They've had some dreadful performances and losses, like the Northern Iowa collapse in the second half. They got totally blown out by Drake, 82-64. They are trending over the last 4 games. I mean, they've been giving up some points defensively. We know Belmont is good enough offensively to make you pay if your defense is struggling. And here in conference play, they've hit the 70s in every single game. This might be the time to step in front of that under streak with these two teams, look over. But I'd lean over and I'd lean Murray, honestly. 6.5, 7 now. I know Murray has been Jekyll and Hyde. Belmont's not been that great dominant home favorite like they've been in years past. And series history says Murray's given Belmont tons of grief. 4 of the last 5 meetings, Murray has gotten the point spread cover. So now that the number's gone up to where it is, I've got to lean to the Racers a little bit. What do you think, Connor?
Yeah, maybe that it's now gotten this far a little bit. I lean their way. I'm going to be off. Murray, yeah, the defense is kind of folded. You mentioned the overs there. And this line's already moved to the over, a few points. And I don't know. Shots might not be made, and this stays under. Again, and both teams, Jekyll and Hyde, both these teams, I just really don't want either. I'd lean the points if I had to. Free bet, on Murray, but I'm off.
All right, Georgia, Kentucky now. SEC, Kentucky, 11-point home favorites in this game, 135 the total. I'm going to take Georgia, Connor Mack, once again. Georgia is shockingly a team that I despised early in the season, and I got to give them their credit right now. 6-1 straight up in the last 7 games. 7-1 ATS in the last 8. Their only non-cover was a 6-point win at home against Rider in a little bit of a flat spot. Other than that, Georgia's been very good in SEC play here. 3 of the last 4 they've won, only a road loss to Florida. They beat Auburn at home, beat Mississippi State at home, won at Ole Miss. Going to Lexington won't be easy. Is that a buy sign that Kentucky went on the road and beat Tennessee? It was one of their best games in a very long time. Perhaps. But now we've got them beating Tennessee. It was a huge win. They're definitely a little more than normal celebrations after a regular season win for the Wildcats after that game. And now you got to turn around and lay 11 at home against a Georgia team that's improving, that's been got pretty solid at the defensive end of the court. They've only given up 58 and 50 in their last 2 games, and they only gave up 64 to a good Auburn team on their home floor. Might be asking a lot after that big win against Tennessee for Kentucky to lay this number and win by this kind of margin. I like Georgia here. Bulldogs plus 11. Connor, what do you think?
So do I. I think the difference here is the defense with Georgia, and they keep just slowly getting better, I think, throughout the year. And Kentucky hasn't been. Hopefully, they turn around. Big game, big win. Now they're just back. Kentucky laying 11. No way. There's no way in this big favorite role. To me, it's just it's Georgia here, nothing.
Yeah, I agree with that. Georgia or nothing here. All right, 2 games left for marquee games: Clemson and Wake Forest. ACC, Wake Forest 4-point home favorites, 146 the total. I initially liked Wake, and I didn't get the number early, and then it turned around and I looked and it was -4. I can't lay 4 now with Wake. I like them at home. I think they're in revenge. They could win this game, but Clemson's owned them. Clemson has really, really done well head-to-head against Wake. 3 straight wins, 3 straight covers. Doesn't matter where they've played. Clemson has just had the better of it in this head-to-head matchup, and Clemson's playing great basketball. The thing that does concern you, and I think another reason too, Connor, they're betting Wake in same season revenge. Wake's great at home. They're undefeated, and Clemson off the Duke win, right? There's some people that think after the home win against Duke, Clemson's going to go on the road and fall flat here. That could be the case. I lean Wake. I wanted to bet Wake, but not at 4 now, especially when Clemson's had the better of it head-to-head. Connor, what do you think?
Yeah, it looks, Hemingway out, definitely. I think that only looked to Wake as well. It stretched out a little bit too much. And I think if you look Wake, just why mess with this team's second half? I would just go first half. Hopefully they get out early. Clemson has just owned them, like you mentioned. This total's come down, but Wake's been nothing but good to the over for me. I think they've hit 7 in a row, something like that, 7 or 8. And Clemson kind of playing to the over here. I get they might have thought it was a little too high. That's why this has come down. And this could get together and stay under, but I'd lean over on the total. Now it's come down a little.
Yeah, I think that's the way you got to look now, especially with the total coming down and Wake on a torrid overstretch as well. Final game, Baylor, Texas Tech. We've got Texas Tech 2-point home favorites, 144 the total here in Lubbock. Baylor just 1-2 straight up in ATS on the road. That's the thing. They've got to show what they can do away from it. They did beat West Virginia on the road. I don't think it's going to be easy here against Texas Tech. Texas Tech is struggling. All right. They've lost 5 in a row, a couple at home as well against Kansas and Oklahoma. They lost by blowout margins against Iowa State. And then Texas, they were leading in that game, but they let it slip away late, and they ended up losing 72-70. Keep in mind there's been some injuries, too, for Texas Tech in recent games. They're starting to get a little bit healthier, though. I think this is their spot, honestly. I just still don't have full confidence in Baylor yet going on the road, and it's going to be a little bit of a sense of urgency here for Texas Tech as well. Keep in mind, Texas Tech beat Baylor both meetings last season. And remember, that was the first year Mark Adams took over the program as head coach after Chris Beard went to Texas. So Texas Tech won both meetings and covered both meetings last year. So the way it looks to me is, look, Texas Tech's lost 5 in a row, and yet here they are. They still opened as favorites at home against Baylor. I think it's the right spot for Texas Tech. I think they'll get the win. I'm on them -130 money line here. Connor, what do you think? Baylor, Texas Tech.
I think Baylor's better, but they need this win. Desperate. That play should be pumped up.
Yeah.
They have not played good basketball. From the beginning, I thought their scoring, where they get it from throughout the year early on. But I just think the spot here is Texas Tech. And I would just go money line. I know it's 1.5 too, but just take them to win.
Texas Tech's issues mostly have been on the offensive end of the basketball court.
Yeah.
For the most part, this team, still capable defensively, and I'd say they're better than Baylor still defensively. Baylor's had a ton of issues, of course, at the defensive end of the floor. I think the defense shows up tonight for Texas Tech, and that gets them the home victory that they need here against Baylor. All right, that's the marquee games for this Tuesday slate. Q&A, well, there's not a whole lot of games we left on the board, but there's obviously a few that we did not discuss. We'll talk about those now. Connor, we'll start with you. Any games that you like that we have not discussed yet?
No, I think we touched on UMass dealing with the injuries. And that line's moved from 7.5 to 10.5. I still think the points with them, but I got to wait to who's in and who's out. I think we got in a bunch. We should see points, in the Toledo game.
Yes.
Obviously, that should go over. Yeah, Eastern Michigan, Kent State. I had nothing there. I think that's about it. Southern Illinois or Evans, I think it still stays under. Southern Illinois could still cover that big number in that game. I think that's it. We did Murray, Belmont. Oh, Wyoming. No Maldonado. I don't know how Wyoming's going to score.
Yeah.
I just don't know where the points come from.
I don't know either. Yeah.
I just under there. I don't want to lay really points with Air Force, but look under. And it really hasn't moved, surprisingly. But yeah, under 130 there.
Yeah, I would take Air Force before Wyoming, honestly, in that game. I don't want Wyoming. They're just too banged up. They've let me down too many times. It would be Air Force or nothing. And I think that's an under as well, even though it's a low total. San Jose State, New Mexico. New Mexico, the huge win against, it's not a New Mexico spot, right? The huge win against San Diego State. What an impressive victory for the Lobos. Sheriff Lobo over the weekend, doing a great job against the Aztecs. Do you trust San Jose State enough? I just stuck to the over there. That's one of my games, actually, is over 143.5 with San Jose State and New Mexico. We've got Ball State, Western. I'm totally passing on that. Ball State, Western Michigan. I think if I had to, I'd lay the points with Ball State, but I don't like laying 9 that many. I lean Ball State, though, in that one. And UMass VCU, I'm on the over, actually, in that UMass VCU game. I agree with the total going up. I think VCU can score at will on UMass. UMass offensively has been a big disappointment, but, they're going to try to push pace, and maybe VCU a little defensively flat a little bit after that comeback win against Dayton. So maybe that game, I think, can get over 144 with
I agree.
VCU and UMass.
UMass can't stop anybody, and their games have been going over, for me. The guy's out, but I still think they'll give up points and should be able to score enough. So, but that total's moved 3, already. It's still lean over.
There we go. Just quickly, the games that I'm on that we haven't talked about, a bunch of overs with Bowling Green. Buffalo is an over for me. I mentioned VCU and UMass. That's an over for me. I'm on Akron Central Michigan over as well, 134. I almost took Rhode Island plus 8.5 against Richmond, but I stopped short on that one. Kent State, Eastern Michigan, I took over in that game because Eastern Michigan is not stopping anybody right now. Did you see that performance against Akron defensively by Eastern Michigan on Friday night? Holy crap, was that bad. I mean, Akron almost went over the full game total by themselves. So 148 with Eastern Michigan games, the way they're just no defense at all, kind of seems a little bit low right now for that for them against Kent State. That's about it. I think that's pretty much it, actually. Yeah, that is it. There you go. All right, that's the Tuesday card. Best bets coming up. Hit the like button. Make sure you do that. We'll be back with best bets right after we hear from Manscaped and Southtown 101. All right, Southtown 101. When you're in San Antonio, Texas, stop in. Great food, drinks, live music, DJs, karaoke, Southtown 101, and manscaped.com. Promo code PubSports, 20% off and free shipping for manscaped.com using the promo code PubSports. All right, best bets to wrap it up for this Tuesday edition of the show. Conor Mack, what do you got for best bet?
I like Iowa State, but instead of going that money line, it's Vandy plus 8.5. I think they cover tonight against Bama.
All right, this is where maybe that team shows the little maybe emotions of the incident with their teammate. And regardless, Vanderbilt is playing better. We'll see if they can capitalize. Vandy plus the points against Alabama for Conor Mack with his best bet. My best bet for this card, it's a tough decision because there's a bunch that I'm considering. I think I got to go with that Nevada Boise over 135. It's just way too low in my opinion. Especially Boise's been trending over. Boise's not that dead nuts under team they've been in the past.
Mhm.
Their defense has leaked a little bit. Their offense has picked up. Nevada gets up and down the court at a decent clip, and we're only talking 135. We don't need a mega shootout here either. So Nevada, Boise State, let's rock with that. Over 135 for my best bet for this Tuesday college basketball slate. That'll wrap it up. I almost went with Georgia too, but I'm going to go with this one, the over in this Nevada game. Great stuff. Thanks to everyone in the chat for joining us. Hit the like button on the way out. We appreciate it. And a reminder, we're back tomorrow, 5 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Pacific, another edition of College Basketball Net Profit right here on Pub Sports Radio. For Conor, Mac, I'm Ian Cameron. Have a great Tuesday night. Enjoy the games and good luck. We'll see you again tomorrow on Wednesday, once again for College Basketball Net Profit right here on Pub Sports Radio.